This week's episode is brought to you by moving into an apartment out of your parents' house. I don't really have anything else to say about it. There's the sound of my roommate cooking in the background, but I live in an apartment now. Moving out in an apartment on your own. Am I wearing pants? Probably not. It's Wednesday Night Live, starring... That was stupid. Hey everybody, welcome to Nexus at Night, coming to you live from my first ever apartment. I'm Atlas.
I'm Matt.
I'm Root Beer.
I'm definitely cutting that Saturday Night Live joke out of the beginning. Anyway.
But don't cut that part. So
just so people know that there's a clip that
there's
out
a
there
cut
somewhere.
part, yep.
Wait, okay, so we know for a fact that they actually edit, but they're very terrible at editing. So what editing is actually being done? Does that mean there's just, like, hours of unheard footage of just, I don't know, fart sounds and talking about, like, politics because they hate when we do that? Then, anyway.
I just realized I didn't swivel my mic closer to my mouth.
Well, now you did. So he did good job, Ripper. Anyway, Vanguard things. So, this week, Bushiroad released a new ban list.
What ban list?
I was getting to that. They didn't. They released...
Oh.
So a week ago, we mentioned this last week, but they're like, all right, we're releasing a ban list next stream. Everyone's like, oh shit, what are they gonna hit? Are they gonna put Crimson Lion Cub Kierf to 1 so that Gold Paladin can't stride on you whether they do it first and second? Are they gonna, like, you know, maybe kneecap Bermuda Triangle a little bit because they came out of the gate way too fast doing well? No, instead they released a statement saying Oracle Think Tank, Bermuda Triangle, Kagero, and Angel Feather are on the watch list for standard format, and Bermuda Triangle is on the watch list for premium. So, nothing.
But what, like, in the past,
Yeah.
what has a watch list ever become?
Yeah?
Anything?
Weren't they saying they were watching Enigmatic Assassin for a while, and then they ended up hitting it to 1?
Yeah, it took them like a year at least.
Yeah. Well, compared to something like Konami with their ban lists in Yu-Gi-Oh!, where they're just like, all right, you know what, these things are coming on, these things are going off the ban list. There's no warning, they just do it. They also seem to have like a set time, like every 6 months a new ban list comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Konami actually just releases a ban list whenever the fuck they feel like. They just say it's going to be around this time.
Yeah.
And so whenever you get to whatever time they destinate around that whole time, like cards like fluctuate in value because they're like, oh, this is going to come off the ban list, it's going to be so crazy, blah, 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 or this is going to get banned, the prices start doing really wacky shit.
Mm-mm.
And it makes it really hard to control what you're doing with Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially since the ban list changes are, like, very, very wild. In Vanguard, it's, like, very, like, rarely get banned.
Yeah.
And if they do, it's usually, like, kind of no.
They'll
Because
try and
like
make it...
banning cards till they're, like, a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like they always try and, like, be as ginger as possible with bans. Like,
Yeah.
Instead of this card is banned completely, it's you can't use it as your starter and you only get 1 copy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't even do that. Sometimes they start off very incrementally, like, it's down to 2 copies right now, and then we'll see whenever we decide to do the next ban list.
Yeah, they do sometimes that shit in Weiss, where they'll be like, oh, hey, we cut a card to 1. Or they'll first put it on, like, a choose X list. Like, there are, like, 3 choices, and you pick 1, you can have up to max copies in your deck. Up to 4 copies, say.
See, well,
And then, but once you pick a card, you can't play the other 2.
well, we got that in premium with Jumping Jill, the reboot, and Old Purple Trapezist, because they formed an infinite loop with each other. If you play one, you can't play the other. Which...
Yeah, well... But Bushiroad hates any kind of loop or anything that'll make the game take longer, so... Seems like they're a little more proactive about that, but so far that's been the only time, and I remember when it first happened, we were like, oh yeah, Bushiroad's gonna be more active with the ban list, they're gonna they're like looking at everything. They're gonna think real hard about all these different
Just
synergies.
kidding.
I mean, I like to think
Yeah,
they
but to finish my
care
story,
a little bit. Sorry.
in Weiss, they started with like a choose one, but then sometimes they'd be like, no, people are always picking this card, we're just going to outright ban it.
Mm.
Like this happened with Junyo and Kantai, which is a support that gives +1 soul to all your characters, basically. And everyone just kept choosing this on the choose one, they're like, fine, it's gone. And then there was a Cost Me PR recently for Bang Dream, but they restricted to 1, and then they eventually were like, no, wait, it's still too dumb, ban. But like, in Vanguard, that doesn't even happen. Like, even if the card is still dumb, they're like, no, it's fine. Please don't have to worry about it.
It seems like Bushiroad takes the make everything dumb approach to power creep.
Well, then it makes the ban list look really silly later, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could have removed things from the ban list for Vanguard a long-ass time ago. Like, I would like to remind everyone that Commander Laurel is still on the ban list.
The original Commander Laurel.
The original Commander Laurel, yes.
Yeah, and the like for a very long time after they were no longer relevant, like time leap stuff was banned, and I think it only came off very recently, like 1 or 2 ban lists ago. So seems like Bushiroad just kind of forgets things are on the ban list too, and just kind of leave them there until they're like, oh yeah, that's there. Is that supposed to be there?
Or
let's take it off.
Or also the,
Right.
the 7 Cs stuff.
Yeah.
That was like part of the... Well, not now because they changed the stride mechanics. It's like they don't need to be there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that the watch list implies any kind of future bannings, although I do highly expect Bermuda to see something in the future.
I mean, I really don't have a lot of faith in
Yeah.
Bushiroad, like, just... Because here's the thing. The problem with Bermuda Triangle is I can't point to one single card that is doing that much heavy lifting, at least in Standard. In Premium, you can go, yeah, hit Ange.
Yeah,
that
but like...
one kind of writes itself, but for
Yeah,
Standard...
but like now that they're getting standard support, they might not even need that as badly anymore, but...
Hit that grade 2, easy, got him.
But even... I don't think it's that...
That grade 2 is insane.
Oh, the one from the trial deck?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh my god. I just saw a meme. Give clans broken support only to put them on a watch list. And then it's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm playing both sides, so I always come out on top.
Yeah, man.
Nexus at Night, the reading memes to people and expecting them to imagine it perfectly. Podcast.
And it doesn't even tell you which It's Always Sunny like picture it is. Like, it could be like one of several.
I mean, it's... If you've watched It's Always Sunny, then...
Yeah.
But what if you haven't?
I haven't, and it seems
Most,
like...
I think most people who share It's Always Sunny memes just have also never watched It's Always Sunny.
I think I might be one of those people.
Amazing.
Well, another thing. So this ban list was kind of a nothing burger. There's not really much to sink our teeth into. So this is going to be a little bit of a dual episode. We're going to pretend like it's Pod Save America. Let's get the Cash App promos up in here. But so we're officially past Wave 1 for everybody. Bermuda Triangle was the last clan to get their first wave of support. We are now on second or even third wave for some clans. And remember how after the reboot started, and I was like, this is the perfect time to get into Vanguard. Everything's cheap, all the clans kind of suck, so everything doesn't suck at the same time. And then, as we're, it's been about a year since the reboot started, which, happy birthday to the reboot.
Yep.
Give or take some. But now, if you want to get into standard format, there are some clans where trying to get stuff from Q4 or the idol booster with Gold Paladin, Neo Nectar, and Angel Feather is nigh impossible because those things are out of print.
I mean, you can just buy your $500 Tier 0 deck, easy.
What?
I'm referring to Bermuda.
Yeah, I got that part,
Fuck.
but
You get your TD, you buy a 4 of all your what do they call them? What are the VRs? Yeah, just give 4 of all of them.
Yeah.
Bam, you did it.
Okay, another ban list meme. Magic Conchill, what should I do in the ban list? Nothing. Okay, I'm done. So, in old Vanguard, in G, and in the original Vanguard especially, Bushiroad was not very good about reprints.
No. God, no.
God.
They were completely terrible. Like, Konami circa 2008 terrible. But I think they've been making a little bit of an effort with like things like these revival collections, or mostly those. Or occasionally they'll release a promo and then release it in a set proper later, just so you have 2 ways to get the card. What do we think about like clans having their first wave being kind of shut off to new players?
I think it's going to hurt clans that are going to be like clans. I think it's going to hurt clans without TDs really badly.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
OTT, especially if people feel the need. Sorry, to still play Daughter.
mm-hmm.
That card's just going to become a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah. And also, I feel like this is just going back to how Bushiroad normally supports things, where it's just going to hurt things that aren't in the anime, because, down the pipeline, we're about to get reprint trio decks for Shadows and Royals, which means stuff from those clans are going to be a little more accessible compared to, like, let's just say Spike Brothers.
But guys, Spike Brothers are cheap now. That means they'll be cheap forever, right?
Unfortunately, that's not how this works. So what ends up happening in these cases is anytime like any clan gets an inkling of support anywhere, all of the ancient ass cards that nobody has anymore will just start to go up.
Yeah.
This happened in the G era. It'll happen.
It happened now.
And with the kind of like trendy spec, like all the ancient ass cards that are getting new support are going to go up. It happened in G era. Since speculating on cards is now trendy, thanks to Magic and others, then people are much more willing to just buy out cards and just like sit on them.
Yeah,
and so like you get this kind of overinflation.
I can give you a recent example too. So after we saw Premium Collection and I saw that Gridora Stride, I was like, I'm going to build Mega Colony because it's pretty cheap, right? There's the Gridora herself might be about $10, and then I went expecting to find Machining Mantis for like $4 because that's what it was before. It was $13.
Get him.
$13 for the remaining Machining Mantises that TCG Player had. Luckily, I managed to go over to eBay where someone had one from like weeks before that they hadn't sold yet. And I was like, all right, taking those. But just like that, it's so ridiculous that it's a thing that people do. And it's one of those things that you can't really fix by virtue of just being like, hey, stop it. Okay?
Yeah.
Stop doing that.
Like Bushiroad would have to be really on point, constantly reprinting cards. And right now, it looks like they're doing that for, like, main character clans, because now, with the 2 new start decks, it's easier for a newer player to get things like Phantom Blaster and King of Knights.
Which is always good.
Granted, they're like 1 copy each per start deck, but that's still better than absolutely nothing.
And as much as I kind of hate how Yu-Gi-Oh! Does screw over stores with like random ban lists and like endless reprints, it does make buying out cards eventually impossible in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Reprints shit into the dirt.
Yeah, well, isn't it that there wasn't when I used to play, but before, wasn't it like they'll reprint something that was expensive for a long time and then ban it or limit it or whatever a few months later?
Yeah, that still happens. Like they'll like tin it and then, or like gold series it, and then after a few more months after that, or if you're Dante, you just last for fucking ever before you get hit.
If someone told me that Burning Abyss was going to be relevant for over 5 years, back in 2013, I easily would have gone back into Yu-Gi-Oh.
Fucking Dante should have been hit like years before. Absolutely amazing.
Nexus at Night, the Yu-Gi-Oh podcast.
Yep.
I interrupted you. What were you saying?
I just thought it was. I was just laughing about Dante and his immunity to the ban list for a long time.
How long did it take? Like, was he just at 3 forever, or?
Yeah.
Oh.
Just forever at 3. Free to roam the extra decks of everyone.
Yeah. He is the traveler of the burning abyss, after all. We're doing this on a Vanguard podcast. We're super professional.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about ban lists.
Yeah.
It's important to talk about ban lists of other games.
And I think we've like brought up ban lists in past iterations before, but I think like it was going so well for a while, and in terms of like balance, and the last couple of times that I have checked out Dexander, shout out to @Dexander if you want to check him out on our episode of the one about the pie. That's him. The last few pie charts that he's put out about meta balance, it's something like 46% Bermuda Triangle, 25% Cadro, 8% OTT, and everything else is 3% and below.
Mm-hmm.
It's
we are approaching a 2-0 format.
Yes, we are.
Fucking hell.
Now, I don't want to like ruin Bermuda's fun. Right after they came. Oh, who am I kidding? I totally want to ruin Bermuda's fun, but I ironically want them to get more support so that Bushiroad doesn't feel the need to do this, because they only get support once a year. Bushiroad's like, all right, we got to make this count, and then as it turns out, it's not that it lasted for a year. It's lasted for, when did Ange come out?
Couple years now.
Yeah, like that is still a relevant card in like a very large capacity.
Nope.
That's crazy.
Like even while other clans were getting their V support, Bermuda was still good in premium, despite not having any V support whatsoever.
Yeah, like even without new triggers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're one of the few clans who can kind of protect themselves against Gold Paladin.
Mm-hmm. And now they have the tools to rush back.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone does everything. It's from. It came out in English in July 21st, 2017. It's been almost 2 years, and that card. It wasn't reprinted up until the Revival Collection as like an SGR. That Stride, which that's crazy to me.
Yeah. So, what do we think about like ban lists in general? Like, do we think that they're important for the health of the game?
Yes.
I think if you need to ban things that are like too dominant, like arguably that Bermuda is right now. Again, the data points are very few, but it's released in English, so we'll see pretty quickly. And then, or it releases in English soon, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Or like, if things are dragging out games and making them not fun, I think they are worthy of bans. A lot of people say you can't just ban a card because it's not fun. But if a card is like egregiously like not fun and like is dragging out tournaments in a way that is also not fun, I do think it should go. And that's why I agree with things like Revros restriction and like the Elizabeth restriction, is because a lot of the ways that those cards drag games out are not fun for anybody.
I mean, in both of their cases, it was less about like a necessarily unfair combo and more about like just the time it took to do said combo.
Right, and I think that's completely legitimate reason to ban a card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in the case of something like Ange, it's like it's not especially egregious with time. It's just really, really good.
Yeah, and that's what I made in the first point. Like if a clan is too dominant, like you have to ban it, or else the game becomes really, really stale.
Yeah,
like in order to keep people interested, you have to kind of shake things up occasionally. And if you're not shaking things up with new product, you have to shake things up with the ban list. And this is just the reality of games without a rotating system, is that as you get more and more sets, things have to get progressively stronger or people won't play new support.
Yeah, or you got to do things like a reboot, which is kind of like a rotation a little bit.
So when you look at the Bermuda set and you look at the things printed before it, and you say to yourself, hey, this needs to be better than, previous Murakumo. This needs to be better than previous OTT. This needs to be better than all that stuff, right? In order for people to care about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and when you do that, you're really you're really walking a tightrope here, because you're like, well, how much better do we need to make it? And the kind of the classy way to do it, or the way that kind of extends the game longer in a sense that you don't have to ban cards, is to design mechanics differently so that it has weaknesses. But that can also be very hard to do, especially in a game like Vanguard, where there's like actually very little game actions to take.
Oh, where everything kind of does everything after a while,
yeah,
right,
like it seems like Bushiroad has been trying really hard to make like situational upgrades or side grades to certain cards, so that the power creep has been slowing down a lot more.
I mean, they've been pretty good at it so far, but I just came from locals last week, where out of 5 rounds, I played 4 Bermuda Triangle.
And how many times did you beat them?
3.
Dang, pretty good.
Narukami, by the way, which is
Look at you playing Narukami for some reason.
Well, I had just sold the deck and I was shipping it out Monday, so I was like, all right.
One last
farewell.
Exactly, and I ended up getting 2nd place, so hooray for that. But, like, it felt like I felt just outmatched. Like, the second they go, all right, ride right, like, the amount of tools that they have, is scary in Standard, and I don't even want to know what I'm going to run into in Premium next week.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to be... Like, the problem with Standard Bermudas is that it's really, 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 really good. But everything is kind of more than the sum of its parts, and I know you mentioned the Grade 2 before, but 2 out of the 4 games that I played, the guy didn't get it turn 2. So it didn't even matter. It was just... The deck is good because everything does everything. And I think that might be because of the melody still, where everything gets boost and intercept, and like it kind of doesn't matter. All you got to do is get to grade 3, and your grade 3s do everything. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure what they would need to hit. Maybe put the V starter to 0 so that they can't stand up Vanguard, and they just don't. They don't exist.
You can always start at a trigger. You can always start with a trigger.
Also, they have like 6 starters.
The rules dictate that you start with a grade 0, not necessarily you start with grade 0.
Oh, I know, no, but I mean, like, just deprive them of that draw. And yes, I know they have multiple V-series starters for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, it's gotta sell cartoon stuff or something.
Yeah. Gotta get them sweet anime bucks.
Yep.
So, I know that the reboot is kind of like a rotation system, but let's say that Vanguard were to implement some kind of Magic or Pokemon-style set rotation. What do you think this would look like?
I think you'd have to do it... Well, so it's pretty hard for Vanguard, because I think one way to do it is that you can only, like, let's say you look at the supports in waves. You could have something like, for each clan, you can only use the past 2 waves of support, say.
Yeah.
So, like, clans who get less support will still have their 2 waves, where clans getting more support will tend to rotate faster.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this would work pretty poorly with how fast they release current like main character clan stuff.
It's just too goddamn fast. Like,
right?
Yeah.
All right, you get at least once a year. I'm like, cool, but like,
it's like if,
also just once a year. I'm like, yeah, that is technically honoring your agreement.
Yeah. So if you looked at and maybe you could make it so the TDE cards are always available if they have a TD.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it's pretty hard to like not let them use TD cards and like expect new people to care. And like you always want the TDs to be relevant, basically. But this also is a little bit vague when they get a new TD, which I guess you could change it so that the latest TD and the latest 2 sets are with that clan are valid. I don't know. It's like really hard for me to like hammer it out, but I think that's one option they have.
I mean, another option could be to actually support clans more evenly. Like, I feel like a lot of the rapid power creep is because they just release set after set of the same 5 or 6 clans, and so they have to keep building up and slowly scaling forward those clans' powers. And then by the time all of the other side clans get their support, they have to catch up like 2 or 3 sets worth of cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard so power creep just jumps up all of a sudden.
All right. We have had, as of today, May 21st, 2019, we have had, to our knowledge, 7 extra boosters in the V series. I'm not counting My Glorious Justice because we don't really know enough about it yet. But pick a clan that you would associate with the main character, and let's see how many times it's gotten support in all these extra boosters.
I mean, let's just go straight for Royals.
Okay, so starting from Destructive Roar, Royals took a while, actually.
Royals might not be a good example because they get a lot of the main set support.
Yeah, well, Royals got support in set or Extra Booster 6. So that's not that bad if you just looked at the extra boosters. Now, if you looked at the main boosters, it's ridiculous. You had first you had Q4, and then am I masking my frantic doodling well enough? Am I doing well?
Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah,
I'm doing perfect.
I'm doing great.
Couldn't have done it better myself.
Oh my god. Okay. So you had Q4, and then it took a while. You had to wait till Miyagi Academy for their stuff, which was only 2 later. It was not
even that far.
Yeah, not even that far. I mean, that was several months apart. True.
Well, there was a bunch of extra boosters in between, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still like what 4 times in a year versus the once Tachikaze gets.
Yeah. And hell, let's look at Link Joker, right? Right, like, they first appeared in Violus the Leader, which was in January.
Yeah.
And then immediately after, they get Extra Booster 6, which was in April. Plus the trial deck, and then they're getting Heroic Evolution, which just came out in Japan this month.
We're going by Japanese dates here because, of course, we do. But yeah, that's like 4 times in 4 months.
Yeah.
That's wackadoo compared to once in a year.
What's frustrating for me about the way that they've dished out support in V-Series is they started off in a way where they're saying, hey, we're actually going to support like clans evenly this time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then like almost immediately, wait, nah, fuck that. We make more money doing this other way.
Yeah, right. Like, Nova Grappler also just got back-to-back support, but you look at, like, they started in Q4, which came out last year, then a whole year later, they get their second wave.
I mean, Nova Grappler, I'm not mad about. Nova Grappler deserved their,
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, look at that compared to something that appeared very prominently in the anime. They kind of disappeared after a while, right?
That's true.
Yeah, they're just, like, not showing this character because nobody cares about Nova Grappler.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like Miwa, though. I just realized Bushiroad is basically like that deadbeat boyfriend. He's like, no, baby, I'm gonna come to your art gallery show. I'm gonna be a more attentive. Oh, he went out drinking with his buddies again. Cool, great, thanks.
That's when you have to throw the whole boyfriend away.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Let's ask Bushiroad for a divorce.
Yeah, like you look at all the upcoming sets and you see what's in the pipeline, and it's just like, after My Glorious Justice, which has things that haven't been supported in a year, we go right back to all of the Paladins.
Whoa, I forgot Dimension Police is a clan, right?
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've seen any Dimension Police cards.
My Glorious Justice is coming out next month, and we did the Asia circuit, the first set for Dimension Police Aquaforce and Grand Blue, as our 100th episode. And this is episode 140. It has been 40 weeks.
Nearly a year.
And that's not even counting weeks that we've been absent. So that's almost a year that they haven't gotten their stuff. And we're not getting this shit till August. So,
and the first set was real fucking medium, it was.
Yeah. But then, like, right
DG.
after this extra booster, we're getting another set with all of the Miyagi Academy clans, so Royals, OTT, Golds, New Automata, Kami. And then immediately after, it's another AL4 set with Shadows, Murakumo, DI, and Pale Moon.
Wait, a good chunk of those clans need like another injection, though, like New Batama and Pale Moon, at least in Standard. And yeah, And
So that's the
de-ice.
thing. It's like this gets really boring, and also like the way support is distributed in all the clans is very unbalanced. You have things like Nubatama that have maybe 10 cards, and then Royals, because they're the main character, gets like double that.
I'm okay with like clans being good in one format versus not very good in another. Like Nubatama is fucking redonkulous in premium right now, and it's terrible in standard. And then you might have something like Pale Moon, which is kind of medium to medium minus in standard, but it's really good in premium either because of that loop, which I'm surprised they didn't hit that. It's literally, this is a Pale Moon loop, and then they're just ignoring that. That's cool.
Yeah. But what? So like going back to like support and how easy or difficult it is, like clans that have more support more often, also it's a little easier to catch up just because there will be at least a couple of decent budget cards per set that you can always pick up. And then meanwhile, decks that are like years between support, you have to go hunt down all these obscure cards that may have been really expensive at the time and just never go down because they're not really in demand, and by the time people are looking for them, they have to go hunt down these obscure cards that aren't really in stock.
Yeah, it's not just that, but just because like having more support means you have to do less to make a clan relevant. Like My Glorious Justice better have some fucking like ringers in there, otherwise they're not gonna have a good time. And wait another year? Cool. Versus like if Royal Paladin's stuff in Extra Booster 6 is pretty terrible, but they're fine. They have all the stuff before that, and they're getting more in the next wave of Miyagi things, which is like a few months down the road. They're fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah. And also, like, Bushiroad tends to split the support with, like, archetypes, too. Who, like, we know Maelstrom is going to be in the Justice set because he's on the cover, but then they're also releasing all of these blue wing cards that need all of their own archetype and have their own very specific gimmick.
Which I guess stay tuned for the My Glorious Justice episode coming, 2 weeks from
Eventually.
now? Yeah. Whenever that comes out for Japan, you know us, we'll be there with the set reviews. I find it rather frustrating. Now, for some clans that have still been functioning okay even with just one set of support, and I'm gonna use Great Nature for this example because it's me we're talking about, but they're not the best by any stretch of the imagination in standard, but they're doing okay, and they've only gotten the one wave of support.
So I think one way to kind of read that information is that late clans who got their support later, even if it's one wave, are going to look a lot better than clans who got their support earlier and hit just one wave.
Yeah, because they kind of need to be caught up to the current power level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or set the new power level.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like Bermuda did.
Yeah.
Bermuda
Bermuda
so
did
we
and
can
always
expect going forward that clans will have to be kind of on par with Bermuda, right? Or else, there's no point for people to care.
will. Yeah. Unfortunately, yes.
On par or better. And you know where this chain goes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Power
And then that's how all the power creep happens, and that's how we got the G era.
Yeah, so all of this kind of stuff has made me reappreciate Stride because it added another kind of game action where it just makes the games play out differently. With that being said, I do feel like GR support was criminally distributed.
Yeah.
Murakumo and Mega Colony especially really got the short end of the stick.
I mean, there's
a lot of clans you can point to.
But that's off the top of my head.
Narukami.
Yeah.
Narukami OTT for like half of the vast majority of its lifespan, let's be real.
Oh, and then they overcorrected with Ichikashima. And then,
barely overcorrected. It's just became good, yeah.
Well, because of the Silent Tom thing. But
the Silent Tom thing wasn't even in. I mean, it was, but it was whatever. Anyway, but yeah, it's just not.
Like, it seems like Bushiroad just keeps making the same mistake, right?
Yep.
Like, how was old Vanguard in regards to this kind of power creep before G era?
I mean, it definitely existed. Well, I guess the real problem was they printed these cards that were just so absurd early on that it was really hard for them to like power creep them out. And these cards were like Tsukiyomi, Dote, and MLB. So these all so the first two came out in BTO for 5. Not Breaker of Limits, the other one.
I forgot the name.
Awakening of Twin Blades. Or
there you go.
Something
it's
something
Awakening.
of nonsense.
Yeah, it's Awakening.
So
of
some
Twin
nonsense
Blades.
like that.
And then Tsukuyomi came out in BTO 3, which was
right.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
Tsukuyomi came out first and started being a problem in Japan, but in the United States, everything went in kind of a weird order.
1, 2, 6, 3, 4, 7, 5, I think.
Right. So they purposely released it really late here, but in Japan, the Dote MLB Tsukuyomi thing was a real problem. In fact, it was so much of a problem for such a long time that they hit those cards. In fact, Dote would still be relevant all the way until Break Right started coming out.
Even after that?
Yeah. Well, right when there were Break Rides, but Kagero didn't have theirs yet, Dote was still fine, but a little weary. But even once they got their Break Ride, like, Dote was still very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they got the... What's its face?
I mean, the fact that Dote would be played all the way until, like, reverse units came out is, like, really fucking insane.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you had that novelle that you could just drop it, search out Dote.
Oh, you're right. It was also in that deck. Never mind.
Yeah. So you could just laugh at your opponent because you didn't need 4 damage to do your thing.
Yeah, so I think because they didn't try to power creep Dote at any point, that...
Or just hit Dote.
In Japan, they did.
No, they did. Okay.
Yeah, in Japan, they hit Dote, they hit Tsukuyomi, and they hit MLB. Which is why if you look at a lot of Japanese deck lists from that era, they're either just not playing Kagero, or they're playing, like, these Royal Paladin lists with 1 MLB in it. Because that's all they allowed you to play.
And it's worth it if you ride it.
Yep, because you just have Winglebrief.
Yeah. Always a good time.
Yep, and Tsukuyomi was super sketch, because I think you can only play 2 in the grade 3.
I think so. Now, if, let's say by some weird fluke that we're in a La La Land type scenario and someone in the crowd who's listening to us has some kind of contact with Bushiroad, what would you tell Bushiroad? Like, how to... Because we're, like you said, we're on the precipice of another Tier 0 format. What do we do?
I mean...
I don't know. Like, it's kind of hard because, like, just flat out banning some of these cards feels like it might be a overkill, and sometimes it's like there's a whole engine going. What the fuck do you hit?
Well, part of the problem too is that like we're talking about hitting cards on a set that literally just landed in the States.
Yeah, that's also hard to justify because we haven't really seen the full effects of it yet.
Yep. But I think like I can understand not hitting Bermuda now, but like I would have liked to see a list of some specific Bermuda cards they were thinking about.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to ask. Like, would you want to see them be like, okay, these are our concerns about the deck, and these are what we're keeping an eye on?
So, like a watch list instead of a watch promise?
Yeah.
Well, so this is something I wanted to bring up earlier, and then the topic kind of moved too far away.
Yeah.
But one interesting thing about the watch list we got this time around is that it was a watch list on clans and not a watch list on cards. Before, what they've done is they give us specific cards that they were watching, like Grade 1 No Sale, like, Commander Laurel, like these kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we're going to watch these cards going forward. But in this new watch list, they just gave clans that they were worried about and pretty much left it open to interpretation of what could be hit. So this could mean a couple different things. This could mean, A, they're not really thinking about what cards they can hit, but maybe thinking about choice restrictions, like in Weiss. Because that would mean that instead of hitting cards, you're basically looking at, hey, what's the powerful engine going on here, and how can we neuter that in a way where people can still have a choice of what deck they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with and I guess this. So one could argue that I'm reading too much into this, and that could quite possibly be the case. But it is worth noting that it is different from how we've seen watch lists in the past.
I guess that is interesting. And then there are also like some cards that are just unhealthy game designs that probably shouldn't be around, like Promise Daughter, that you just flat out can't retire.
Well, I'm not so concerned about that anymore.
Yeah, but like they keep printing cards like Blade Master or like the Phantom Blaster cards that kind of want you to wipe the board, and then they just have this card around that's immune to it.
But that's supposed to be a weakness. And remember, okay, we have a whole episode where I tried to do it by myself and it didn't work. And I said, oh man, shadows aren't bad, it's just that they're in an unkind landscape. And yet, Shadow Paladin did fine. Even with things like Promise Daughter, which is immune to that Retire 3 thing. But having a built-in weakness to a deck and still having Shadow Paladin be able to win despite that weakness, I think it isn't bad design.
Yeah.
And you also have other clans that can remove Promise Daughter without giving a shit, like Narukami. Like, I don't get that shit out of here. Bind Zone, let's go. Like it.
I think part of the problem with Promise Daughter specifically is that OTT is kind of up there in problematic decks right now.
Fair enough.
So, like, it kind of contributes to the feeling of oppressiveness.
Fair. But also, you're not going to see a lot of players who will put Promise Daughter in the back row just to screw over Narukami or anything. Like, they're going to attack with it, which means you can attack it. You know. Am I wrong?
I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, it seems like a situational awareness type of thing.
I think it's better than with something like Resist, which was...
Resist was
kind of an overcorrection to, because that meant you were immune from Vanish, deleting, retiring, binding, putting into soul, putting into bottom, that kind of thing.
Well,
I thought when they used resist sparingly, or like had effects like only resist on your turn, like that one Aquaforce dude, I thought it was fine. I think the real problem was when they just started throwing resist around like candy.
Oh yeah, that was pretty.
They had to overcorrect things by making a whole bunch of cards that got around resist.
Yeah.
And so far, we've only had in standard 2 cards that have that can't be retired by card effects thing. And 3 after the Bermuda set. But Promise Daughter, Stamp Sea Otter in Great Nature, which is not used because you don't do the self-retiring thing anymore, so you don't. Why would you need it? And then the aforementioned Bermuda card, which gives like the can't be retired, can't be attacked. That's what it was. So you can still like get rid of it. But again, I think having selective protection is good, and especially like going back over to Yu-Gi-Oh for a second. A lot of good cards that have protection from X, Y, or Z often don't have it for literally everything. And if they are, they're incredibly annoying to summon. So if you have it can't be destroyed, can't be banished, that kind of thing, but you can still tribute it or attack over it or whatever, that I think that's a good way to do it instead of just like, okay, blanket resist, go fuck yourself. This has been an episode with a litany of topics. This is going to be a bitch to title, also.
I think mostly like I'm curious and I'm not really optimistic. I'm just kind of like waiting to see what even becomes of this, because there's not like they gave us a ban list, and there were some interesting things surrounding the ban list that I think do pique my interest. But again, like I don't know what Bushi is planning, and they're not being very
forthcoming about it.
Transparent about it.
Yeah.
Although it was pretty funny. Japanese Twitter was pretty much just like, why even bother telling us that there's no changes?
Well, because they told us the week before that there was a ban list, and like, well, we gotta tell them something,
Right, and they're like, ban list, no changes. Everyone's like, what? Why?
That's not a ban list.
That's not a ban. Just say Like, why didn't they just say this last week? Like, there are no current changes to the ban list. We're looking at XYZ.
Yeah.
Well, because they got to hype us up a little bit and then make a random podcast about their game, be like, guys, we're going to do an episode on it, and then have nothing to talk about.
I would much prefer if it were like, if everyone did it like Magic, where once they give a ban list out, even if there are no changes, they tell you when the next ban list is going to be the exact day.
Oh, well, that's nice. But that also implies that there's like more foresight in card design, where I feel like Bushiroad...
Oh,
What?
That could be true.
Where I don't think Bushiroad plans that far ahead with exact card design. With clan support, yeah, they showed us that, like, okay, this is the next year of support. But I don't think they were, like, designing cards up until about maybe 3-4 months out, if we're being honest.
Probably true.
All right, so to finish this episode off, because this is an episode with hosts and we have interests and anger and things we're pissed off about, let's say you're in charge of the ban list. What do you think should have been hit in both standard and premium, if anything?
Gold Paladin starter.
Yeah.
So Kirth to 1.
Something from Bermuda. I don't even know fucking what.
Yeah,
There's
like,
so many things. I would probably want to do like a 3-choose-1 for Bermuda. I'm not really sure what cards I would even pick. Very possible Aqua might be one of them.
I don't even know what cards are relevant for Bermuda anymore.
But like, I think it would have to, like, I think the only way to solve the Bermuda problem is with like a 3-choose-1 or 4-choose-1. It's the only way you can reliably hit engines.
Yeah.
Or giving people the illusion of choice. Like, there's obviously going to be like one card in any 3-choose-1 that's like the correct pick. But the point is, like, you're effectively banning 2 other cards without saying you're banning them.
I guess one of my problems with the Bermuda thing in Standard, at least, like, once you get rid of the relevant grade 3s like Sonata, then all of a sudden the deck just kind of nosedives.
I think I would do... like Standard, I don't think has done enough damage with Bermuda yet. Like, what, it's been a week in English? So I think if you were going to do anything in Standard, I would hit the grade 2 from the trial deck. Put it to 1 or 2.
I feel like that'd probably be the best choice, like, hit it down to 1 or 2.
If at all, I honestly think maybe let it run wild a little longer. In Premium, though, you gotta make some changes. I would put Delight Genius Anjay to 1. Easy choice.
Yeah.
And then put Crimson Lion Cub Kirf from the Premium Kirf. You can't use it as your starter.
Yeah.
That's easy. You can use the V-Series Kirf, though, if you want. I would do something to hit that Pale Moon loop. Maybe put, like, Flying Periton to 1, because that's an important card. And what's her name? The Prankster Girl of Mirrorland, the one that lets you search for anything, is super important to that deck for its consistency. I would hit that, too. And this is coming from an avid Pale Moon player. So it's not like I'm doing this out of like some weird vindictiveness. I think Pale Moon has a lot of tools to work, and I think that having this loop exist over-centralizes the clan when you have so many other wacky shit you can do, and I've been testing with it for months. So if you want to find out about that, you can tweet us, which I'll get to in a little bit. Matt, did you have any besides the tentativeness about Standard, or?
Not particularly. I've mostly said like the things that I was worried about or concerned about.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I feel like my ultimate conclusion is just support clans better.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, but that's not a ban list. That we can't be all pissy about support. Oh, yes, we can. Who am I kidding? Anyway, that does it for this episode of Nexus at Night. Guys, you're out there in the internet, in the landscape. Where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at Wiggums, 2 G's, 2 Z's.
You can find me on Twitter at Plasma Eclipse. I make the arts.
Yes, he
it's
does.
True.
And then I love that somebody finally referenced Matt going 2 G's, 2 Z's. At Gleaming Garmore said, why is it that every time I read Matt's I read it as Wiggums, 2 G's, 2 Z's? true.
It's because I say it every time.
Well, yeah, because otherwise it's like what, like Wiggum's like Ralph, or I don't understand. Yeah.
I can't wait until somebody one day just types out that whole statement. Wiggum's 2Ds.
Wiggum's two, and of course it's going to be like the guy doing the hunting pact on the keyboard. WIGG, I forgot. U, etc. Anyway, you can find this podcast at Nexus at Night. We often retweet Root Beer's drawings, and you can find me personally at Atlas Novak, Novak spelled with a CK. And if you happen to be in the Los Angeles area tomorrow, I will be at the Hollywood Improv on Melrose and Crescent Heights on their show at 9:30 p.m. this Thursday, May 23rd. If you want to come say hi to me. I'll be doing stand-up comedy. I assure you I'm funnier there than I am here. So, yeah, until next time, I was Atlas.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Root Beer.
And have a good night, everybody.